Welcome back to Vietnamese Vixens. Today's story comes from a place most of us know, but few admit that desperate edge where loneliness meets delusion, where a man convinces himself that this time, in this place, with this woman, everything will be different. This is Eric's story. 34 years old, from Stockholm, Sweden, divorced, broken, flying halfway across the world looking for something he couldn't name. He thought he found it in a Saigon bar on a Tuesday night. He thought she was different. He thought a lot of things. And before you judge him too harshly, ask yourself, have you ever been so lonely that you'd believe anything that made you feel alive again? If this hits home, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share your story if you've been there. And if you've ever convinced yourself that someone was different when every sign said otherwise, hit that like button and subscribe, because you're going to want to hear how this ends. This is Eric's confession. I stepped off that plane at Tan Son Nhut, and the heat hit me like a physical thing. Not uncomfortable, really, just different. Alive. Stockholm in February is gray, wet, cold, in a way that seeps into your bones and stays there. I'd spent the last 3 years in that grayness after Johanna left. 3 years of the same IT consulting job, the same apartment that still had her coffee mugs in the cabinet because I couldn't be bothered to throw them out, the same friends asking if I was doing okay with that concerned look that made me want to punch walls. I wasn't okay. I was hollowed out. Functioning, sure. Going to work, paying bills, existing, but not living, not even close. So I did what lost men do. I booked a flight, 2 weeks in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, maybe Thailand if I felt like it. My buddy Magnus had done the same thing after his divorce, came back with stories about beaches and cheap beer and how it cleared his head. He didn't mention the other stuff. Or maybe he did, and I wasn't listening. Doesn't matter now. Saigon swallowed me whole that first night. The motorbikes, thousands of them, flowing through intersections like schools of fish with some rhythm I couldn't understand. The smell, diesel and street food, and something sweet I couldn't identify. The noise. God, the noise. After Stockholm's polite silence, it was overwhelming. I loved it. I found a hotel in District 1, nothing fancy, dropped my bag and walked. Just walked. No plan, no destination. The jet lag had me wired and exhausted at the same time. I ended up on Viet Street because that's where every confused Western man ends up eventually. Neon signs in Vietnamese and English. Bars packed shoulder to shoulder. Music bleeding into music. Girls on stools outside every entrance calling out in accents that turned "Hello, handsome" into something musical. I ignored most of them. I'm not that guy, I told myself. I'm just here to clear my head. But I was tired, and the third beer place I passed had a corner table open, and the music wasn't too loud. So I went in. That's where I met Lynn. She wasn't the one who called me in from the street. That was an older woman, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a calculator smile. But once I sat down, Lynn appeared with my beer, and something in my chest just shifted. I know how that sounds, I know. But if you've never been that lonely, that invisible for that long, you don't understand what it does when someone looks at you like you matter. And she looked at me. Not through me. Not past me. At me. She was small, maybe 5'2", with long black hair pulled back in a ponytail, and this smile that seemed too genuine for the environment. 23, I learned later. She wore jean shorts and a white tank top, and she sat down next to me without asking. And that should have been a sign, but I was already gone. First time Saigon? Her English was decent, accented but clear. Is it that obvious? You look lost. She smiled. But good lost. Happy lost. That's weirdly accurate. We talked. I don't even remember about what, at first. She asked about Sweden, seemed genuinely interested. Told me she'd never seen snow. I told her Stockholm in winter would cure that curiosity fast. She laughed. Touched my arm when she laughed. Small thing, probably calculated. But it lit something up in me I thought was dead. I bought her drinks. She brought me more beer. The mama-san, the older woman from outside, hovered in the background, but Lynn waved her off. That felt significant to me then, like she was choosing to stay, not being ordered. What you do in Sweden, she asked. IT consulting. Boring stuff. Computers, networks, making sure systems don't crash. You smart then? I laughed. Not smart enough to keep my marriage from crashing. I don't know why I said that. The beer, maybe. The heat. The fact that she was listening like she cared, her face shifted, got softer. I understand. My heart broken too. Thai man. Very bad man. He leave me. And just like that, we were two wounded people in a Saigon bar, and every alarm bell that should have been screaming in my head went quiet because I wanted this to be real so badly I could taste it. We talked for 3 hours. She asked about my divorce, and I told her things I hadn't told Magnus or anyone. How Johanna had just grown cold over the years, how we'd stopped touching, stopped talking about anything real, how she'd left for a coworker and I'd seen it coming but couldn't stop it. Lynn nodded, understood, shared her own story about being used and abandoned. Looking back, her story was vague, details shifting, but in the moment it felt like truth. The bar started emptying out. It was past midnight. I should have left. Should have paid my tab and walked back to my hotel and never come back. You want go somewhere more quiet? She asked. My heart hammered. Yeah, I'd like that. She took me to a small hotel 2 blocks away. Not her place, I learned later, never her place. A love hotel. Hourly rates, rooms with mirrors on the ceiling and lights that could change color. It should have felt cheap, transactional. But she kissed me in the elevator and held my hand walking to the room, and I chose to believe it was real. We didn't talk about money. That's the detail that hooked me deepest. Every story I'd heard, every warning about bar girls, they all involved negotiating price. But Lynn never asked, never mentioned it. I told myself that meant something. The sex was intense in a way sex with Johanna had never been, not even at the beginning. Lynn made sounds that seemed genuine, moved in ways that felt spontaneous, looked at me like I was the only man in the world. And when I reached for a condom from my bag, she put her hand over mine and whispered, "No need. I want feel you. Really feel you." Every rational part of my brain screamed stop. Every bit of common sense I'd accumulated in 34 years said, "This is insane. You don't know this woman. You met her 3 hours ago in a bar. This is how lives get destroyed." But I was so tired of being rational, so tired of being careful, so tired of being the responsible guy who did everything right and still ended up alone in a Stockholm apartment with another woman's coffee mugs. So I didn't stop. Afterwards, we lay in that cheap hotel bed with the air conditioning rattling, and her head on my chest and her finger tracing circles on my skin, and I felt more alive than I had in years. Also terrified. Also stupid. Also like maybe, just maybe, I'd stumbled into something real. "You stay Saigon long time?" she asked. 2 weeks. I fly back to Stockholm on the 16th. She was quiet for a moment. "That not long." "No, it's not. I like you, Eric. You different. Swedish men, gentle, tied, not like Vietnamese men or Thai men. They very hard, very controlling. You can tell all that from one night." She lifted her head, looked at me with those dark eyes that seemed bottomless in the dim light. "I can tell. I know people. You good man. I see it." I wanted to believe her so badly. Wanted to believe I was good, that I was different, that this wasn't just another transaction in a city built on them. We exchanged numbers. She kissed me goodbye at the hotel door. I walked back to my hotel as the sun was coming up. Saigon already awake with breakfast vendors and early motorbikes, and I felt like I was floating. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Lay in my hotel bed replaying every moment, every word, every touch. Checking my phone to see if she'd messaged. She had. Just a simple, "I miss you already," with a heart emoji. I messaged back immediately. "Miss you too. See you tonight?" "Yes, I wait for you." And that's how it started. That's the hook. The first taste of something that felt like being chosen, being wanted, being the hero in someone else's story. I didn't know then that I'd already made the decision that would unravel everything. That the moment I didn't use protection, I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. That the loneliness that brought me to Saigon was the same loneliness that would destroy me there. I just knew I had 13 days left in Vietnam, and I was going to spend every one of them with Lynn. Because she was different. Because I was different. Because this time, in this place, everything would be different. I was 48 hours into the biggest mistake of my life, and I'd never felt more hopeful. The second night I went back to that bar, Lynn wasn't working. The mama-san told me she'd be there around 9. It was 7. I sat at the same corner table and nursed a beer and felt pathetic for being early, for being eager, for being exactly the kind of desperate foreign man I'd always pitied. But when she walked in and her face lit up seeing me there, all that self-awareness evaporated. She sat down like the night before, close enough that her knee touched mine. "You came back." Of course I came back. Some men, they say they come back, but they don't. They go Phu Quoc or Mui Ne, forget Saigon girl. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled and ordered us drinks, and we fell into conversation like we'd known each other for years instead of hours. She asked about my day. I'd wandered around the War Remnants Museum, felt heavy and contemplative, grabbed pho at a street stall, normal tourist stuff. But the way she listened made it sound fascinating. You eat street food? Not scared? Should I be? Some foreigner, they only eat Western food. McDonald's pizza. They afraid of Vietnamese food. I'm not afraid. I know. You brave. She touched my hand. That why I like you. We stayed until closing. Went to the same hotel. Same room even. Like we were already establishing rituals, building a shared history. And again, no condom. She pulled me close and whispered, I feel safe with you. And that was all it took for me to abandon every bit of self-preservation. Afterwards, lying in that rattling air conditioning, she said something that changed everything. I wish I not have to work that bar. You don't like it? I hate it. Men think think I go with anyone. But I don't. Not anymore. Only you, Eric. Only you now. My chest tightened. What would you do if you didn't work there? I don't know. Maybe study English more. Get office job. But I need money for rent, for send home to family. My mother's sick. My grandmother old. I, the only one who helped them. And there it was. The first request that wasn't quite a request. The first glimpse behind the curtain. But I didn't see it as manipulation then. I saw it as an opportunity to be useful, to matter. How much do you make at the bar? She hesitated, looked embarrassed. Maybe $200 each week, some week less. Depend on customer. I did the math. In Stockholm, I'd been making good money, had savings despite the divorce. $200 was nothing, less than nothing. What if you didn't have to work there anymore? She looked at me like I'd just offered her the moon. What you mean? I mean, what if I helped you out? Just while I'm here. So you don't have to go back to that bar, don't have to deal with other men. Eric, no. I cannot take your money. That, not right. It's not like that. I just want to spend time with you, these 2 weeks, just us. She was quiet for a long moment. Then tears started forming in her eyes. Actual tears. You so kind. Too kind. I never meet man like you. So you'll let me help? Only if you sure. Only if you really want. I transferred her $500 the next morning through an app she helped me download. Told myself it was worth it, to have her full attention, to not share her with a bar full of drunk men. Told myself I was saving her from something degrading, being the good guy. She stopped working at the bar, or so she said. I never went back to check. We spent the next 5 days in a blur of rented motorbikes and cheap hotels and sex that got progressively more reckless. She took me to places tourists didn't go, alleyway restaurants, where I was the only white face, markets that smelled like fish and incense, a temple where she prayed for her grandmother's health, and I stood awkwardly behind her feeling like an intruder. But at night, in whatever hotel we'd ended up in, she made me feel like the most important person in the world. My 2-week ticket came and went. I extended my stay another 2 weeks, then a month. Magnus called from Stockholm, asked when I was coming back. I told him I'd found something here, someone here. He got quiet. Be careful, man. It's not what you think. It's always what I think. I've heard this story before. But he hadn't met Lynn. He didn't understand. I started working remotely, told my boss I needed to take some personal time. He wasn't happy, but my work had been solid for years, and I had the leave saved up. I found a small apartment in District 3, cheap by Stockholm standards, a palace by Saigon standards. Lynn moved in 3 days later. That should have been the dream, right? Living with a beautiful woman in an exotic city, working a few hours a day to cover expenses, spending the rest exploring. But the requests started coming faster. Her grandmother needed medicine, $300. Her cousin needed money for university fees, $500. The motorbike she borrowed from her friend broke down and needed repairs, $200. Her family's apartment in the Mekong Delta had roof damage from recent storms, $800. I sent it all. Every request. Because each time she cried. Each time she said she hated asking, that she felt ashamed, that she'd pay me back someday. Each time she made me feel like a hero for solving her problems. And each time afterwards, the sex was incredible. Grateful. Intense. Still unprotected because she swore she was on birth control, showed me pill packets with labels in Vietnamese I couldn't read. My savings account started bleeding. I tried not to think about it. One night, I came back from a coffee shop where I'd been working and found a man in our apartment. Young guy, maybe 25, on the couch with Lynn. She introduced him as her brother, Duck. He needed business startup money, wanted to open a phone repair shop. Just a small loan, $2,000. He'd pay me back with interest. I'd never heard about a brother before. But Duck shook my hand and called me Brother Eric, and showed me sketches of his business plan on crumpled paper. And Lynn squeezed my hand and looked at me with those eyes. And I transferred the money before he left. The red flags were piling up like corpses now, but I refused to see them. My brain performed Olympic-level gymnastics to explain everything away. She came from poverty. Of course she had family needs. Vietnamese culture was different, more communal. I was being culturally insensitive by applying Western skepticism. And besides, she loved me. She said it every day now, whispered it during sex, texted it when I was working, told me I was different from every other man, that I understood her, that she'd been waiting her whole life for someone like me. I was 6 weeks in when my boss called and told me the remote arrangement wasn't working. I needed to come back, or they'd have to let me go. I quit, just like that. Quit a stable job I'd had for 8 years. Told them I was staying in Vietnam indefinitely. My boss thought I'd lost my mind. My mother called from Uppsala crying, asking what was wrong with me. Magnus stopped responding to my messages. But I had Lynn. That's what I told myself. I had something real. The money request got bigger. Her mother needed surgery, $3,000. The family apartment wasn't just damaged. It needed to be completely rebuilt. $5,000. She cried so hard that night, I thought she'd break. Told me her family would be homeless without my help. Told me I was the only good thing in her life. I emptied my investment account. 2 months in, she started getting sick in the mornings. Nauseous. Tired. I suggested she see a doctor, but she refused. Said Vietnamese doctors were expensive and useless. Then one night, she came out of the bathroom holding something. A pregnancy test. 2 lines. My world stopped. I'm pregnant, Eric. I should have felt terror. Should have felt trapped. Should have demanded we go to a real clinic, get confirmation, figure out options. Instead, I felt validated, chosen. Like this was proof she wasn't scamming me, that this was real, that we were building something. Are you sure? She showed me the test, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I thought I careful. I thought the pill working. Don't be sorry. I pulled her close. This is amazing. You not angry? Why would I be angry? I love you. It was the first time I'd said it directly. She sobbed into my chest and said she loved me too, that she was scared but happy, that she never thought she could have family with good man like me. I proposed 2 days later. No ring, just a promise. She said yes. I wired money back to Stockholm and told my friend to sell my apartment. Told him to ship whatever I needed and donate the rest. I was staying in Vietnam permanently, building a life here, getting married, having a baby. He tried to talk me out of it. Sent me articles about romance scams in Southeast Asia. I told him he didn't understand and blocked his number. Lynn said we needed to have a proper Vietnamese wedding. Not right away, but soon. Before she started showing. It would cost money though. Her family would expect certain things. Traditional ceremonies. Gold jewelry. A banquet for relatives. I sent her $15,000 for wedding preparations. She said she needed to go to the Mekong Delta for 2 weeks to arrange everything with her family. I offered to come, but she said no. It would be bad luck for me to meet them before the wedding. I needed to trust her. I trusted her. She left on a Tuesday morning, kissed me goodbye, told me she'd call every day. She called twice. Short conversations, bad connection. She sounded distracted. After 4 days, the calls stopped. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I told myself it was normal. Rural areas had bad cell service. She was busy with preparations. There was nothing to worry about. But something in my gut, that voice I'd been ignoring for 2 months, started screaming. I went back to the bar where we'd met, just to ask if anyone had heard from her, just to ease my mind. The mama-san saw me coming, and her face did something I couldn't read. Pity maybe. Amusement. She called over another girl, said something in Vietnamese. They both looked at me. You looking for Lynn? The other girl asked. Yeah, she's in the Mekong Delta. I just wanted to know if... The girl laughed. Not mean, just surprised. Lynn not in Mekong Delta. She here last night. Working. The floor dropped out from under me. That's not possible. She quit months ago. She never quit. She just worked different schedule now. Afternoon shift mostly. The mama-san said something else in Vietnamese. The girl translated. She says Lynn not pregnant. She drink with customer last night. Drink a lot. I couldn't breathe. Where is she now? They shrugged. Didn't know. Probably at home sleeping. Did I want to buy a drink? I walked out of that bar and into the Saigon heat, and everything I'd built in my head for 2 months collapsed into dust. I spent that night in our apartment waiting for her to come back. She didn't. I called her phone maybe 50 times. Voicemail. 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 Then the number disconnected entirely. Just a recorded message in Vietnamese I couldn't understand. I didn't sleep, just sat on the couch we'd bought together, or rather that I'd bought and she'd picked out, and replayed everything. Every conversation, every request for money, every tear. Every time she said she loved me. Looking for the truth underneath the performance. The worst part wasn't realizing I'd been scammed. The worst part was realizing one known. On some level, I'd known the whole time. Every red flag I'd explained away, I'd seen it. I'd just chosen the lie because the lie felt better than going back to being invisible in Stockholm. Around dawn, I started going through her things. She hadn't taken much, I realized. Most of her clothes were still in the closet, her makeup still in the bathroom, like she was planning to come back, or like none of it mattered enough to bother taking. I found a second phone in a drawer under some clothes. Cheap burner thing. When I turned it on, it was full of messages in Vietnamese. I took screenshots and ran them through translation apps. The translations were rough, but clear enough. Messages to other men. Dozens of them. Miss you, baby. When you come back to Saigon, I wait for you. Different names. Different profile pictures. Some in English, some in Vietnamese, some in what looked like German. Messages to other girls. Comparing notes. Laughing about customers. One message mentioned a Swedish guy who was very easy, very stupid, give anything. There were photos, her with other men, recent photos. Some taken while she was supposedly living with me, exclusively with me, carrying my child. I threw up in the kitchen sink. When I could breathe again, I kept digging. Found documents in Vietnamese. I couldn't fully read but recognized enough to understand. An ID card with a different name. Not Non. Something else. A birth certificate showing she was 28, not 23. Receipts. Casino receipts from places I'd never been to, on nights she said she was visiting her sick mother. Shopping receipts for luxury items from stores I couldn't afford, purchased with money I'd sent for her grandmother's medicine. And underneath everything, a small stack of Western Union receipts. Money transfers to an account I didn't recognize. My money, probably all of it. Funneled through her to someone else. A boyfriend, maybe. A husband. A business partner. I sat on that floor surrounded by evidence of my own stupidity, and I couldn't even cry. I was beyond crying. I was hollowed out. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it desperately, hoping it was her with some explanation that would make this make sense. It was the mama-san from the bar. You Eric? Lynn boyfriend? I guess not. You need to know something. Lynn, she not bad girl. She just working. You understand? This is job. You not take personal. How is this not personal? She sighed. Every month, new foreigner man come. Think they special. Think this girl different. But it's same story always. You want feel important. She give you that feeling. You pay for feeling. That all. She told me she was pregnant. Maybe she believe it. Maybe not. Girl like Lynn, she take pills sometimes forget. She probably not know herself. She took $20,000 from me. Another sigh. That too much. That very stupid. Why you give so much? Because I thought we were building a life. In 2 months? You build life in 2 months with bar girl? She wasn't being cruel, just honest. Matter of fact. You go home, Swedish man. Saigon, not for you. She hung up. I should have listened. Should have booked a flight that day. But I still had this insane hope that if I could just talk to her, just see her face to face, she'd explain, or apologize, or something that would let me preserve some dignity in this disaster. I went back to that bar every night for a week. Lynn never showed. The other girls stopped talking to me. The mama-san told me to stop coming, that I was scaring away customers by sitting in the corner like a ghost. I found her on Facebook eventually. Different profile from the one she'd shown me. Different name. Same face. Her relationship status said, in a relationship with some Vietnamese guy. Photos of them together going back 2 years. Photos that overlapped with our time together. I messaged him in broken English and Google translated Vietnamese, told him what happened. Asked if he knew. He responded in perfect English. Yeah, man, I know. That's her job. We got bills to pay. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I started having symptoms around week 3 of being alone in that apartment. Burning when I urinated. Discharge. Panic. I found a clinic in District 1 that catered to foreigners. The doctor was professional and unsurprised, took samples, asked questions I could barely answer. How many partners? Was protection used? When was my last test? Never, I admitted. We never used protection. The doctor's face didn't change, but I saw the judgment. We'll test for everything. HIV, hepatitis, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia. Come back in 1 week for results. In meantime, no sexual contact. That almost made me laugh. No sexual contact. Like I had anyone left. The week waiting for results was the longest of my life. Worse than waiting for divorce papers. Worse than anything. Because divorce was emotional damage. This was potentially permanent physical damage. This was consequences I'd carry in my body forever, because I was lonely and stupid and desperate to feel wanted. I barely left the apartment, ordered food delivery, worked the minimum hours to keep freelance money coming in, stared at the ceiling, replayed every decision. Every moment I could have chosen differently. The results came back mixed. Gonorrhea positive. Curable at least. Painful treatment, but curable. HIV negative, thank God, but they told me I needed to test again in 3 months to be completely sure. Hepatitis B negative. Syphilis negative. So I got lucky. Relatively speaking, just one STI instead of several. Just something curable instead of something permanent. The doctor prescribed antibiotics and gave me pamphlets about safe sex practices and told me I was fortunate this wasn't worse. I didn't feel fortunate. I tried to press charges. Went to the police station with my evidence. The officer looked through my phone, at the screenshots, and translated messages, and shrugged. You give her money voluntary, yes? Yes, but... She promised marry you? Yes. You have paper? Contract? Proof? No, it was verbal. Then no crime. You give gift to girlfriend. Girlfriend, change mind. Very normal. He pushed my phone back across the desk. Many foreign men have this problem. My advice? Go home. Vietnam, not good for you. That was it. No investigation, no justice. Just another stupid foreigner learning an expensive lesson. I found online forums after that. Expat groups, Reddit threads, Facebook pages dedicated to warning people about scams in Southeast Asia. And my story wasn't unique at all. It was practically copy pasta. Different names, different cities, different amounts, but the same structure. Bar girl. Quick connection. Request for money. Family emergencies. Promises. Disappearance. Some guys lost more than me. Some lost less. Some married them first and then found out. Some got trapped with actual kids. Some got diseases worse than gonorrhea. I read every story compulsively, looking for someone who had a different ending. Someone who found out the girl was real. That it was all a misunderstanding. That love actually existed in these circumstances. I never found that story. I should have gone home then. Should have cut my losses and slunk back to Stockholm with whatever dignity I could salvage. But I'd quit my job, sold my apartment, burned every bridge. And the thought of facing Magnus, facing my mother, facing everyone who'd told me this, was insane and been right. I couldn't do it. So I stayed. Got a cheaper apartment in a worse neighborhood. Picked up more freelance work. Avoided BVN and District 1 entirely. Became one of those bitter expats who see in cheap Vietnamese beer halls, drinking alone, warning younger guys about the dangers, being ignored because they think they're different, their girl is different, this time is different. I saw Lynn one more time, 3 months after she disappeared. I was getting coffee near Benthon Market, and there she was across the street. Different hair, shorter. Holding hands with another Western guy, older than me, German maybe, based on the flag patch on his backpack. She saw me too. Our eyes met for just a second. And you know what she did? She smiled. Not apologetic, not embarrassed, just a small, knowing smile. Then she turned back to the German guy and laughed at something he said, and they walked away. That smile told me everything. I wasn't a victim to her. I wasn't even a person. I was a job she'd done well, a transaction she'd closed, and she was already on to the next one. I stood there with my coffee getting cold and watched them disappear into the crowd, and finally, I understood. I wasn't special. The connection wasn't real. The pregnancy wasn't real. The love wasn't real. I was just another lonely man with money and a need to feel important, and she'd given me that feeling in exchange for cash. Clean transaction, no different than buying anything else. The only person I'd been lying to was myself. I'm still in Vietnam. Can't afford to leave now, even if I wanted to. Most of my savings went to Lynn, or whoever she really was. The rest went to medical bills and cheaper apartments and trying to rebuild some kind of life from the wreckage. I work remotely for clients who don't know I'm living in a country I can barely navigate, in an apartment that smells like mold, sleeping on a mattress on the floor because I sold the bed frame when money got tight. Sometimes I see them in coffee shops or on the street. Western guys my age, or older with young Vietnamese girls who look at them the exact same way Lynn looked at me, touching their arms, laughing at their jokes, making them feel chosen, and I want to warn them. I want to walk over and show them my bank statements and my medical records and say, look, this is where this ends. This is what happens when you confuse transaction for transformation. But I don't, because they wouldn't listen. Same way I didn't listen to Magnus. Same way I ignored every warning sign and red flag and voice in my head screaming that this was too good to be true. Because we don't want to be saved. We want to believe we're special. That our loneliness has earned us something real. That this time, in this place, with this woman, everything will be different. And maybe it will be for some people. Maybe somewhere there's a guy who met a bar girl in Saigon and it actually worked out, and they're actually happy, and she actually loved him. But it wasn't me. And it probably won't be you either. I'm 34 years old. I came to Vietnam to feel alive and ended up more dead than when I started, broke, diseased. Alone in a country where I don't speak the language, clinging to freelance work that barely covers rent. I watch the sun set over the Saigon River sometimes from my apartment window. Same sun that felt so promising when I first arrived. Same heat, same noise, but it all feels different now. Empty. Just weather and sound signifying nothing. I had it all figured out back in Stockholm. Boring job, stable life, predictable future. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine, and it was real. Now I've got nothing except the memory of how it felt to be wanted, even if that wanting was purchased, even if it was all performance. Some nights I still check her Facebook profile. She's changed her name again. Different boyfriend now. Australian guy based on his profile. Looks happy. Looks exactly like I must have looked. I could warn him. Send him a message, tell him the truth. But I won't. Same reason nobody warned me. Because the truth is we already know. Deep down. We just choose the beautiful lie because the ugly truth is too painful to face. That's the real addiction. Not the girl, not the sex, not even the place. It's believing we matter to someone, even if we have to pay for it, even if it destroys us. I'm still here, still in Saigon, still watching other men make the same mistake. Still living with the consequences of thinking I was different. I wasn't different. Neither are you. But you'll probably have to learn that yourself.